This is a clarion call. Blow the trumpet in Zion. Sound the alarm on my holy mountain. It's time for all people to awaken from their slumber. This is a time to see clearly the signs of the times.
Are we being prepared for the mark? Today, we hear people saying that the times we are living in could be the time of the Antichrist. We want to take a closer look at this. First, we know that the Antichrist has been coded in the Bible as having the number 666. This has been a mystery for years, but we do have many clues. We know that every Hebrew letter has an equivalent number. Also, we know that in the original text, the number is written 6, 60, and 600. We read in Revelation 13, 16 through 18, "And he causes all, the small and the great, the rich and the poor, and the free and the slaves, to be given a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads. And he decrees that no one will be able to buy or to sell, except the one who has the mark, either the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for the number is that of a man, and his number is 666. We know that 6 is the number for man. It is the letter Vav in the Hebrew language. Vav is a picture of man being created on the sixth day by God. The letter Vav looks like a hook, which is the connecting force that binds God and man, heaven and earth. Yes, we see a man, a descendant of Adam, but we also see the soul of a man in the number 60, a man who wants power and a man who wants status, a man who wants all the glory. The number 60 is the letter Samech, the shield. It also represents the endless glory of God. If the writer got the 60 by multiplying 6 times 10, then the letter for the number 10 is Yod. Yod is a picture of an arm or hand. It points to God's omnipresence, his divinity. Yes, this man wants to be God and worshipped like God. Either way, the writer comes up with the same end result by using the letter for 60, or 6 times 10. 600 speaks of the spirit of this man. By the number we know that he has been around for a long time. 1 John 4, 2 and 3 tells us this. By this you know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Messiah Yeshua has come in the flesh is from God, and every spirit that does not confess Yeshua is not from God. This is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you have heard is coming, and now is already in the world. Even in the time of the apostles, the spirit of Antichrist was present. The number 600 is made from various letters. If the writer went with 6 times 10, maybe he did the same for 600 by using 6 times 100. The letter for 100 is Kuf. It is the first letter in Kadosh, which means holy. So Kuf represents the holiness of God. But the letter Kuf looks similar to Kof, which is the word for monkey. So we have a picture of one who resembles a man, but is animalistic in nature. The word for coronation has the equivalent of 100 also. The Antichrist wants to be crowned with all the glory and have every person bow down to him and give him homage. We saw this in the time of Esther, when Haman wanted everyone to bow to him. Esther 3, 4 through 6 tells us this. Day after day they warned him, but he would not comply. So they reported it to Haman to see whether Mordecai's behavior would be tolerated, since he had told them he was a Jew. When Haman saw that Mordecai would not bow down or pay him homage, he was filled with rage. And when he learned the identity of Mordecai's people, he scorned the notion of laying hands on Mordecai alone. Instead, he sought to destroy all of Mordecai's people, the Jews, throughout the kingdom of Xerxes. Yes, we know that the Antichrist will go after the Jew and the Christian. Revelation 12:17 tells us, "So the dragon was enraged with the woman, and went off to make war with the rest of her children, who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Yeshua." In Yeshua's day, the people thought Nero was the Antichrist, for his name added up to 666. He was responsible for putting to death Peter and Paul and many other believers in his day. Remember, all the Caesars thought that they were gods. But then a little closer to our day, many thought Hitler was the Antichrist, because he also killed so many Jews and Christians alike. We know that the Antichrist will want to be God, because the Antichrist is a false Christ, and in many ways, a mirrored image of the true Messiah. Yeshua warned those who would be his true followers in Matthew 24:26. "So if they say to you, 'Behold, he is in the wilderness,' do not go out. Or, 'Behold, he is in the inner rooms,' do not believe them." Even today, we have heard these words spoken about people, as they have been called the Messiah, the healer of the world. These are false prophets who mislead people, and when people run after them, they are deceived. They did just that in the days of the apostles, and many followed this false Messiah, and they all fell to their death as they fought the Romans. In Matthew 7:15-20, Yeshua tells us this, "Watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. By their fruit you will recognize them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes, or figs from thistles? Likewise, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus, by their fruit you will recognize them." This is true of the false Messiah also. He is called the man of lawlessness, as 2 Thessalonians 2:1-12 tells us. Now we ask you, brothers and sisters, regarding the coming of our Lord Messiah Yeshua and our gathering together to him, that you not be quickly shaken from your composure, or be disturbed either by a spirit, or a message, or a letter as if from us, to the effect that the day of the Lord has come. No one is to deceive you in any way, for it will not come unless the apostasy comes first, and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the son of destruction, who opposes and exalts himself above every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, displaying himself as being God. Do you not remember that while I was still with you, I was telling you these things? And you know what restrains him now, so that he will be revealed in his time. For the mystery of lawlessness is already at work. Only he who now restrains will do so until he is removed. Then that lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord will eliminate with the breath of his mouth, and bring to an end by the appearing of his coming. That is, the one whose coming is in accord with the activity of Satan, with all power and false signs and wonders, and with all the deception of wickedness for those who perish, because they did not accept the love of the truth so as to be saved. For this reason, God will send upon them a deluding influence, so that they will believe what is false, in order that they all may be judged who did not believe the truth, but took pleasure in wickedness. Today, we see the spirit of lawlessness. First, we know that God's commandments are called His law, for God is for law and order. This is why the Antichrist will go after those who keep His commandments. The Antichrist opposes the law of God. To summarize God's commandments is to say, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment, and the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself." All we see today is lawlessness in our streets: murder, looting, harming one another, and harming our neighbor's property. Isaiah 5:20 says, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter." This is the spirit of the Antichrist. Out of this chaos and destruction, this evilness and deception, will come one who will claim that he will heal the nations. He will rule and bring prosperity. He will make the world better. Yeshua says, "Beware. Look at the fruit. Look at the tree." We are in the midst of that great apostasy. We are on the path that is bringing great delusion and deception. Power is in the view of all to see, and law and order is in the rear view mirror. Globalization has come, and the world is seeing its results. In the midst of a pandemic, the people cried for a one-world government, a ruler to rise up and lead the way for the masses. Churches were closed, and people were no longer together, but divided. The Word of God and the things of God fell by the wayside for many people. Today, there are more false pastors and teachers of the Word than ever before. They are preaching under false pretense, for they no longer believe in what they are preaching. So what about the mark? The mark will be placed on the forehead or on the hand. It reminds us of Hitler, who tattooed the Jewish people with a number on their forearm. Each one of us will have to make the choice to receive the mark or not. Those who do, Revelation 14:9 and 10 says this, "If anyone worships the beast and his image, and receives the mark on his forehead or on his hand, he also will drink the wine of the wrath of God, which is mixed in full strength in the cup of His anger, and he will be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb." But those who do not, Revelation 22:3 and 4 says this, "There will no longer be any curse, and the throne of God and of the Lamb will be in it, and His bondservants will serve Him. They will see His face, and His name will be on their foreheads." Will you stand for truth? Will you stand for God's commandments? Will you stand in the time of persecution? Will you trust God that He will never leave you? Now is the time to prepare your hearts, because we are not long from having to determine if we will submit ourselves to the ways of the Antichrist so that we can buy and sell, or we will trust God. And if that means to die for our beliefs, then it must be. So whose name will be on your forehead? If God's, then consider today what you are running after. Is it God's way, or is it man's way? You have to be alert, and you have to be ready.